Okay, so you want to own a Chick-fil-A. $10,000. That's the number that gets people. $10,000 to own a franchise of the highest grossing fast food chain in America, per location, a chain that outsells McDonald's, Starbucks, and Taco Bell on a per unit basis, while being closed one full day out of every 7. 10 grand in. Printing money forever. That's the pitch running in your head right now. You don't own a Chick-fil-A. You never will. Not even if you get accepted. And getting accepted is harder than getting into Harvard. Most franchises will sell a license to anyone with a pulse and a loan pre-approval. Chick-fil-A doesn't. Roughly 60,000 people apply to become an operator every year. Somewhere around 80 to 100 get through. That's an acceptance rate under a quarter of 1% lower than Stanford's undergraduate admit rate, lower than getting hired at Google. There's no tier system here, no budget location versus flagship location the way there is with a gym or a car dealership. One path in, full-time, single unit, hand-picked for life. The corporation explicitly screens out anyone who already owns other franchises. They are not looking for investors. They are looking for one person willing to give the company their entire working life in exchange for a number that, on the surface, looks unbelievable. This is where the math gets strange because, on paper, the costs don't escalate the way they do for every other franchise on the planet. A Subway costs $150,000 to $450,000 to open. A McDonald's costs $1 million to $2. $2 million. And roughly half of that has to be the operator's own liquid cash, not borrowed money. A Chick-fil-A operator agreement costs $10,000. That's not a typo. And it's not a discount. But it's also not the whole number. And this is where most retellings of this story get it wrong. The $10,000 is only the franchise fee, $5,000 paid up front and gone for good, $5,000 held as working capital. It is not the total cost of getting in. Chick-fil-A's own disclosure documents put the real initial investment equipment, initial inventory, opening costs, working capital reserves anywhere from $427,000 to $2, $3 million, depending on the format and the real estate market. The operator is still on the hook for a serious chunk of change. Here's the part that actually matters though. No matter how much of that investment the operator puts up, they never hold title to the land, the building, or the equipment. Chick-fil-A Inc. owns the real estate and keeps it. Spend 7 figures getting a store open, and at the end of it you own a bank account and a job. Not a deed, not a lease you control, not an asset you could sell to the guy down the street. Every other franchise on this list at least hands the operator a piece of paper that says the business is theirs. This one doesn't. Agreements are evaluated on a rolling basis, renewed entirely at the corporation's discretion, so when one ends, the corporation can hand the store to someone else without paying a dime for the goodwill or customer base the previous operator spent years building. The money works like this. 15% of gross sales goes to corporate as a royalty, off the top, before the operator sees a cent. Then, on whatever's left as net profit, an additional service fee equal to 50% of that goes to corporate too, effectively taking half of what remains. On a strong standalone location, doing something in the $9 million range a year, close to the median for a freestanding store, per Chick-fil-A's own numbers, operators are commonly estimated to land somewhere between $165,000 and $275,000 a year after both cuts. Genuinely excellent money for a $10,000 entry fee, but a salary with extra steps, not equity. No selling the store, no willing it to your kids, no second location to start compounding, since operators are capped at 1 unit at a time. To see what this kind of model looks like when it goes wrong, you don't have to look at Chick-fil-A itself. You look at Quiznos. In the 2000s, Quiznos ran on a version of the same idea taken to its logical extreme. Franchisees didn't just pay a fee. They were contractually required to buy their meat, bread, and supplies from a small list of corporate-approved distributors. Distributors that, by numerous franchisee accounts and lawsuits, charged well above open market prices. Corporate collected on both ends, the franchise fees coming in, and a markup on every ingredient going out, regardless of whether the store down the street was profitable. By the early 2010s, thousands of Quiznos locations had closed. Multiple class action lawsuits alleged the supply chain arrangement made it structurally impossible for many franchisees to turn a profit, no matter how well they ran the store. The company that once had roughly 5,000 locations shrank to a few hundred within a decade, and eventually filed for bankruptcy protection. Corporate ended up settling a class action from roughly 10,000 franchise owners for $206 million and lost a separate case to another 6,900 franchisees for $95 million. A chunk of that going to people who'd paid their fees and never even got to open a store. It didn't stop the collapse. 700 locations closed in 2009, another 800 in 2010, and the company filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy protection in 2014. From a peak of over 5,000 U.S. locations, Quiznos operates fewer than 200 today. The mechanism was different. Quiznos operators put up real capital and technically held title to their stores, but the lesson is identical. When the parent company controls every input cost and every renewal decision, ownership is a legal label, not an economic reality. The operator absorbs the downside, the corporation stays insulated from it. Chick-fil-A's model simply removes the pretense earlier by never handing over the title at all. Good year, you're one of the roughly 80 to 100 people accepted this cycle. Your store lands near the median, call it $9 million in sales. After the royalty and service fee, your take-home lands somewhere in the $165,000 to $275,000 range, against a $10,000 franchise fee. Measured against the real investment, $427,000 to $2. $3 million, it's still an excellent multi-year payback, just not the fantasy the headline implies. Bad year, your performance metrics slip, or a corporate simply declines to renew the agreement at the end of its term. You lose the store. Not you sell the store and walk away with your equity. You lose it, full stop. Because the real estate, the equipment, and the brand were never yours. Every dollar of goodwill you generated over a decade of building foot traffic stays with the corporation. You walk away with whatever cash you personally banked along the way, and nothing else. There is no lawsuit that gets that store back, because the contract you signed never promised you the store to begin with. So when you say you want to own a Chick-fil-A, what you're actually applying for isn't ownership. It's the single best paid, most heavily vetted management job in American retail, priced at $10,000 specifically, so it never looks like a job at all. You'll never hold the deed. You'll never sell the goodwill you spend a decade building. You'll never open a second one to start compounding, and you'll never pass any of it down. What you get instead is a number small enough $10,000 to stop you from ever asking the only question that actually matters. What happens to everything you built? The store, the customers, the years, the day the corporation simply decides not to renew? The answer is nothing. That was always the deal. It just never got printed on the sign out front.